Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Deal with D and J. I am your co-host, DJ McCatherine, joined alongside Jacob Prail. How are we doing, buddy?
Good. As I'm about to yawn here, a little tired, but we battled through. Going to Mizzou homecoming this weekend. Yeah. First time in a long time, Mizzou versus UMass. I know the riveting matchup. Hope to see some UMass folk. Hope to see maybe some little cohorts, and if not, that's okay. I'm going to be having a great time regardless. So excited for the weekend, just trying to get to Friday because I fly out Friday. And for those listening, it's a pretty big step for me. This would be my third flight in like the last 2 months, so that's pretty big for me.
Are you not much of a flyer?
No, I couldn't fly for the last 3 years. I had such bad flight anxiety. It was so bad.
I know that.
Yeah, it was bad. Quite bad, but now we're back and we're good. Allows me to do some trips and excited to go up to Columbia again and not lose my voice this time because we should stomp UMass. So.
You know what? I hope so. UMass's program is lovely. We love UMass's program.
They're all right. Football team's not great, but that's okay. They're a hockey school.
They're a hockey school. That's what we can say. We're going to be generous and nice. Jacob, there is a ton of sports stuff going on, right? The MLB postseason is right around the corner. By the time this airs, it'll be, 3 days? 5 days? Until we get postseason baseball? It's right around the corner. The NFL is heating up. Is it time for some teams to start panicking after 3 weeks? College football, we're basically in the thick of it now, right? We're getting some of the biggest matchups of the year coming up this coming week. The decisions in the SEC, the Big Ten, huge implications. And then we had a crazy last week with some big upsets, some surprisers. We've got tons to cover, but we're going to start with baseball. And I got to start up in Cleveland. The comeback kids in Cleveland, the Guardians, 9.5 games back at the start of September. 9.5 games back from the wild card spot. And now that they are now 1 game behind the Detroit Tigers in their division. And today, the day of this podcast, which is Tuesday, they start their series with Detroit. I mean, Jacob, talk to me just how remarkable it is just to come back 9 games in September to now having the ability to clinch your division.
Yeah, first and foremost, little Weston back there is having a field day, it sounds like, on something. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, DJ, I mean, it's quite remarkable, right? As you kind of go through the season, you expect Detroit to almost kind of run away with the thing because they were so dominant. And, in the last several games, I mean, they're not looking too great. They've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They lost their last 6 games. Swept by the Guardians, swept by the Braves. They lost, 2 to the Marlins in a series. They lost 2 to the White Sox. They lost 2 to the Mets. Like, we can just keep going. And then, they got swept by the Athletics. Like, the more it just keeps going, the Tigers are just holding on for dear life. And it's a perfect time for the Guardians to get hot, right? I mean, they're having key guys step up. Cantillo has been a big piece of the pie for them. Right, Slade Sesechny has been fantastic for them down this stretch as well. I mean, you can include, the other guys that they've had like Tanner Beebe and Logan Allen, and Parker Masick is also another guy, that's stepped up in a moment. It's when you trade away a guy like Shane Bieber, you're not expecting this team to make a push to the playoffs, and here we are. In the final week of the year, the final weekend as you're hearing this, and they're knocking on the door here of Detroit, potentially, chance to win a division. And they're also sitting tied with the Astros for the last wild card spot right now as well. So I think it's super fascinating and super interesting where we go. And I hope Cleveland can get it done. It's a tough thing to do. Like, in Cleveland's last 10, they're 9-1. Like, unprecedented numbers here for teams trying to make a late push to October.
No, for sure. I mean, 9-1, impressive sweeps of Detroit, the White Sox, and winning 3 of 4 against Minnesota is, you could say that Minnesota and White Sox are kind of gimmies, given the seasons that they've had, but doing it against Detroit, who is, likely to have an AL Cy Young winner, the Guardians have done a phenomenal job. And then, like I said, or like we mentioned today, Tuesday, the day of this podcast, they start their 3-game series with Cleveland, basically a battle for the division title, and then Detroit finishes off in Boston. So not an easy feat for them, as Boston is fighting themselves for a spot in the playoffs. And Cleveland will finish up. They end with Texas in their final series of the year. So congratulations to the Guardians for just making an effort to come back, because we thought they were down and out. Many of them counted them out, but here they are. Other teams, Jacob, making a push in the NL. Cincinnati, in the beginning of September, was 6 games back, and now they hold the last wild card spot. And trailing behind them, the Mets, falling apart in September, which seems like a usual thing for them. And Arizona, looking right in, or hanging right behind the Mets and the Reds. I mean, the battle in the NL is almost more exciting than the battle in the AL right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you got a 3-headed race, right? You got bigger names, right? Ellie De La Cruz, you got the Mets with Soto and everything going on down there. And the Diamondbacks, who traded away 2 pretty key pieces. Like, imagine if they still had Suarez and Josh Naylor in this playoff push, right? Things to kind of think about kind of going back, right? The Reds are winners of their last 5-game win streak. The Mets got spoiled a little bit by the Nationals. The Nationals have taken 2 games away from them back in that weekend series, I believe, especially at a last-second catch, I believe I saw from Jacob Young, doing it twice to him, causing a Frank the Tank crash out. And the thing is, the Reds have the pitching staff to be dangerous in October, right? You have Hunter Green now granted, who knows what this is going to look like come their first October, right? But you got Green, you got Littell, you got Lodo, Martinez, Abbott, Burns, you have Pagan, who's been a great closer, right? Connor Phillips, Brady Singer. Like, we can kind of go down the list here of who they got coming out of the bullpen. And again, Ke'Bryan Hayes, right? Spencer Steer, Matt McClain, kind of all putting it together now with Ellie De La Cruz. And then it was only a matter of time that the Reds were going to figure it out. Did the Reds look at them at the beginning of September and go, we're going to be playing for a wild card spot? Probably not. But here you are battling, and they own tiebreakers, DJ, over the Mets and the Diamondbacks. So as long as the Reds just play the same as the Mets or the D-backs, they're going to get into the playoffs, and the Mets are going to be on the outside looking in due to the tiebreakers. And right now, here are the teams that have already clinched the playoffs so far. You have Toronto, who has clinched, right? The Mariners have not officially clinched yet, but it looks like they're tracking that way to punch their ticket into the playoffs. The Philadelphia Phillies have already punched their ticket to the playoffs. The Brewers have punched their ticket to the playoffs. The Cubs have punched their ticket to the playoffs. And then you're looking at the Dodgers and Padres, who punched their tickets to the playoffs, with the Padres only 2.5 games back of the Dodgers right now in the NL West, right? So, and then, you're looking at, well, what about the Cardinals? What about the Marlins? They're 3.5 games back. And the Giants, don't worry about it. They're all going to blow it somehow unless miracles happen. It's awesome. We're getting this late push. You're starting to feel every game matter more and more and more. And I think it's just awesome that we're about to get some October baseball with, how grueling of a schedule baseball is with 162. But we're looking at a great slate here. And the playoffs look interesting, man. You're looking at potentially 3 teams to come out of the AL East right now. The Red Sox aren't safe by no means either. They're only up a game on the Guardians, so they have to keep winning if they want to punch their ticket to October. But here we are nonetheless, and yeah, I think I'm for some, looking at the Mets schedule here, like you got to play the Cubs and you got to play the Marlins. I think for the Reds, they got to play the Cardinals. Actually, no, they got to play the Pirates. And they got to play Milwaukee to end the year.
And so each one has a tough series to go through, and they kind of got one that they can win, but someone could play spoiler for them to end the season here.
Correct.
And I may have lied. I think the AL actually might be a little bit more. It depends on how you look at it. Like the AL seems like it's still wide open, right? Because you only have one team that's officially clinched in the Toronto Blue Jays. Big surprise, by the way. That I think I remember doing our baseball podcast at the beginning of the season. I don't think any of us had the Blue Jays anywhere close to winning their division, let alone being the best team in the AL coming into this year. But on the other side in the NL, you have very few spots left to grab, and you've got three teams that are neck and neck trying to finish it out. And that is just the epitome of the baseball season coming to an end. Like you said, every game feels like it's starting to matter right now, and it's going to be great. It is going to be great.
Clayton Kershaw last week announced that he is retiring from baseball. I mean, what an unbelievable pitcher. Legend in the game, right? He played what feels like forever, right? How many years? How many years do you have that pulled up? I mean, simply astonishing. He had a 10-2 record this year, pitching alone. Right? Nothing short of spectacular, right? He hasn't had a losing pitching season, I think, ever in his career. The worst that he's ever done was 500. He was 2-2, 8-8, and 5-5, right? It's what, an 18-year career, right? He was, just reading off the baseball reference here, he was an MVP, a Triple Crown winner, right? That's leading pitchers in strikeouts, ERA, and wins, for those who don't know what that is. He was a 2020 World Series champion. He was a World Series champion in 2024 as well. 2024, right? Is that when they won? 2023? I can't remember. No, they won a second one recently with Ohtani, because Ohtani just won one. Yeah, but that's crazy, because if you look up Ohtani, he won, he's technically a two-time World Series champion. I don't know why it says he's not. I guess it's weird. I don't know. But he's a two-time World Series champion. 5-time ERA title. Obviously, 3-time Cy Young. 11-time All-Star. Won a Gold Glove. Major League Player of the Year. Roberto Clemente Award. Like, you name it, he's done it in this league. Debuted against the Cardinals back in the day. Came from Dallas, Texas. I mean, what more can you say about the guy, right? Clayton Kershaw, simply one of the best. No two ways. Nastiest curveball you ever see. The come right on down. He had listen to these career stats here. 222 wins, 80.5 WAR, 96 losses, 2.54 career ERA. Like, having a career sub-3 ERA is nuts. He's pitched over 2,800 innings, has over 3,000 strikeouts, and has a 1.018 whip. Brother is quite literally insane.
Yeah, as a fan of a rival of the Dodgers in the St. Louis Cardinals, that is a true thing, right?
Listen, the Cardinals owned him for a little bit, man. We owned him. We owned him in the playoffs. There was a big monkey on his back, and we were part of that equation. Whenever I remember to get on my reminisce, like anytime Clayton Kershaw would pitch against the Cardinals, I was like, oh, we're winning. Because I just knew we were going to smack him. Game 5 in the NLDS, I think, is a pretty good example of that in 2013, I believe. That's a pretty good example of us owning Clayton Kershaw back in the day. Clayton Kershaw, nonetheless, amazing, legit. He's going to go down. He's one of the best pitchers ever. They're going to revere him in the history of this game. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Should be a unanimous one as well, but you know how the writers are. They're going to ding him for not winning more championships. But Unbelievable stuff from Clayton Kershaw.
The NFL is in full swing. Right. We've gotten a fair look at a couple of teams. We are just finished week 3. And by the time this airs, Thursday will have happened. It'll be the start of week 4. And we've got some question marks. But first, we're going to go over week 3 real quick and just the special teams craziness that happened this past weekend, because I'm watching highlights, blocked kick after blocked kick after blocked kick after field goal winner after field goal winner after field goal winner. I mean, special teams deserved its own award on our Dealers of the Week. It really did. Like, just special teams in general needed its own highlight. But Cleveland, the team that Green Bay probably looked past to their week 4 opponent, what a comeback by them. An interception late by Jordan Love leads to a score by Quinshon Judkins that leads to the Green Bay Packers trying to seal the game to a blocked field goal, and then Joe Flacco, a masterclass to get the ball down the field into field goal range. And then I don't know the Cleveland Browns kicker off the top of my head, but to drill a 55-yard field goal under that pressure in Cleveland at home, people were wearing bags on their heads arriving to that game.
Andre Smythe.
The new Cleveland legend. Call him LeBron, for all I care. Drilling that field goal against what is probably considered up to that point the best team in football, maybe, arguably. Craziness. And then you have the Eagles blocking a field goal at the end of that game as the Rams were trying to take the lead, return back for a touchdown. And then Tampa Bay, oh my gosh, Tampa Bay going against the Jets. You had the Jets blocking a field goal, returning it for 6, and then the Bucs coming down and kicking a game-winning field goal. Cinema. And then you have the Chargers also hitting a game-winning field goal. Jacob, give me your takes on just the craziness that happened this weekend.
I think Baker is super crazy because he doesn't he wants them to be down. He can't play good football unless they're losing, and he's like, it's bake time, baby. It's my time. Yeah. I mean, the Eagles game was kind of crazy. They were doing nothing on the offensive side at halftime. They come out, they start slinging the ball. They remember they had A.J. Brown, which is crazy. I'm also convinced Jalen Hurts was calling plays after a certain point because their OC is so bad. I mean, craziness. That Eagles defense does not leave fans very comfortable. I will tell you that for free. But you put your 2 biggest guys there and you push. You get a hand up. And great things can happen. So craziness for the Eagles, all-time bad beat for the Rams, unfortunately. And that's a game that's going to slip away from them in what looks like already a tough division. Everyone with a winning record through 3 weeks of the season. Every game counts, man, and that's a game you let slip away from you there. And Joshua Carty, man, he perfected the knuckleball, essentially, and it's just impossible to stop. Unbelievable stuff over in Philly. I mean, Green Bay. Browns defense is not bad. Mason Graham is
the Browns defense is elite.
Mason Graham's currently leading the league in pass rush win rate. That's a big thing they have going on. And not only do you have Mason Graham up front, you also have Myles Garrett on the edge you got to worry about. And he's in a league in and of his own. The offense is starting to low-key figure itself out with Judkins. You don't have a true number 1 wide receiver yet. But yeah, Fannin and Njoku, and that's pretty exciting to see right there.
Judy.
Things are not terrible in Cleveland. It's just Joe Flacco's your quarterback doesn't leave you with a lot of hope for the future. Right?
Offensive line isn't great.
Yeah, offensive line's not great either, but I mean, what more can you ask for? It's another great great Sunday. The Chargers continue to dominate over in the AFC West with a 2-game lead now in the division. They're clicking on all cylinders, man. Justin Herbert seems to have locked himself. Shout out Madison Beer, I guess. And Harbaugh and the defense is starting to get together. They're not blowing things at the end of games. And I mean, let's just transition right into it. How about those Indianapolis Colts, DJ?
I mean,
had to punt for the first time in what feels like forever, right?
I think it was their first punt of the season.
Daniel Indiana Jones is cooking on all cylinders. I mean, Jonathan Taylor has reinserted himself into one of the best running backs in the league with 338 yards. Michael Pittman's not doing terrible right now. Like, leads the team with 193. They're utilizing Tyler Warren the way they're supposed to. Like, you got everything working in harmony for the Colts right now. And not to mention that defense is doing fantastic. The addition of Cam Bynum has been a difference maker. I mean, the edge rushers are great. Leatu Latu is fantastic. Xavier Howard's good. Like, you can go down the list on this team. And they're also getting great work from their field goal unit and Spencer Schrader. The Colts, man, are just clicking on all cylinders right now.
I got two things. One, switched it. I told you guys before the season with Mari and Drew on here that the Colts team is made up to win. This team right here, and I'm not going to go out and say that I expected this type of performance from them because I don't think anybody did, and if you did, you were probably put in an insane asylum. But this Colts team was designed for Daniel Jones to succeed. This reminiscent of the playoff team of the New York Giants before Daniel Jones got his $40 million a year contract. That's what that New York Giants team was supposed to be, right? This was a team designed almost exactly to that, but Daniel Jones just fits. They made all the other pieces work, right? It's not just Daniel Jones, but inserting a quarterback that works in that system and can make the little stuff work is what makes this Colts team succeed. And with that, do we have different expectations now for the Colts? Do we see them as the winner of this division?
I mean, as of right now,
they're obviously leading.
It's hard to say no with what you've seen, right? But it's also like we still got months of football still left to play. But I mean, you're looking at it and you're like, man, I don't know who's gonna take down the Colts. Titans aren't gonna do it. The Texans may not do it. Their schedule is pretty easy, kind of the rest of the way. Like, they have a couple tough teams in Jacksonville. They're probably gonna split because they can't win in Jacksonville. So, like, who knows? But on the flip side, in that division, the Jags are 2-1 right now, man. Liam Cohen kind of has it cooking. People are been really pointing out recently that they're like, why has Brian Thomas Jr. regressed? Well, the easy answer is Shane Waldron's the freaking offensive passing coordinator, the passing game coordinator, and he was the reason why Rome Odunze didn't break out. He leaves the Bears, and look what Rome Odunze is doing, right? He was at the Rams. He leaves the Rams. Cooper Kupp instantly breaks out. He was in Seattle. He leaves Seattle. JSN breaks out. He goes to Jacksonville with an amazing Brian Thomas Jr., and he regresses. Shane Waldron's a problem, and I was seeing all day that he needs to be fired. He should not be in football. He's so bad. But nonetheless, the Jags defense looks really good too. Right, and they let a game get away from them over in Cincinnati. They should be 3-0, but keep an eye on the Jags, man. You never know. Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen, they could be the guys. But Indiana looks like they picked the right quarterback. The offense is humming. Everything is going the way it should, and that was always the question with Indiana. And I also think a big part of what Daniel Jones' game has really accomplished was he spent some time with Kevin O'Connell. I think that's a big part of the equation as well. But still a lot of season left to play. The Texans can still bounce back from being 0-3, but we'll see what happens in that division.
Yeah, are we more surprised here before we move on, kind of with the defensive stance that Indianapolis has taken thus far, right? They've come up clutch against the Broncos, 29-20. That's a tight game. That's a grind-out game. They only allow 8 points against Miami, right? And then, they give up 20 to the Titans, but they score 41. Like, what is kind of the bigger surprise here? That their defense is holding their opponents, or this offense is just blowing up?
I definitely think it's the defense. I think it's a symphony of both of them. But I definitely think the defense being able to score you points and get takeaways and get pressure on the quarterback will always will win you out regardless of how your offense looks, right? So I think that's probably a big portion of what's happening here. I think truly the Colts just look impressive on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary with Kenny Moore and Bynum and Howard, right? And Leatu Latu looks really good. Like, I think it's an impressive defense, and then they have the offense to complement it, and it's just clicking on all cylinders for the Colts, right? Everyone's kind of waiting for the Daniel Jones to kind of come back down to earth. But as of right now, man, I think you have a winning formula if your defense can continue to produce at this super high level.
No, I think that's perfectly said. I mean, Daniel Jones is averaging 270 plus yards a game. He's got 6 touchdowns himself on the season, three passing, 3 rushing. Jonathan Taylor's hitting over 100 yards a game. I mean, the offense looks like it's straight up thriving. Another team straight up thriving. A team that we had high expectations for, but has won some pretty impressive games. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We expected them to be good. They are going to be without Mike Evans here for the next couple of weeks with a hamstring. And Emeka Egbuka has stepped up in an amazing role. And do we see this Tampa Bay team, who has gone to Atlanta, to Houston, and has now beaten the Jets in 3 consecutive weeks, close matchups. But if you can't win the close matchups, you're not going to win the big games, right? What are we expecting from this Tampa Bay team? Do we think, or do we have different expectations from them after seeing how they've played in their first 3 weeks?
No, I think my expectations for the Bucs are still the same. I think Egbuka has been nothing short of sensational for the Bucs. But the Bucs winning these super tight, close games, like eventually that's not a recipe for long-term success. Take a look at the Vikings, what was it, 2-3 years ago, where they won like 9 one-score games. Like, the Bucs have already won 3 of them and had to come back in all 3 of them with a game-winning drive. You're not going to be able to do that for every single opponent, right? So I think for now, you enjoy your wins and you celebrate what you have. But this isn't a successful winning formula for a long-term season success. But they're looking at getting Godwin back, right? With Egbuka. Ike Evans is going to be gone for a little bit, but Bucky Irving is pretty good right now. Tristan Wirfs is coming back. And the defense is stepping up when it needs to. But again, with the Bucs in that division is so bad, especially after what we saw from the Falcons the other night. Like, it's still their division. They're 3-0. They're head of the division, and so you got to take it for what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's the NFC South. It's not super competitive, but I'm not ready to vault Tampa Bay up into Super Bowl contention. Yeah, I'm not ready to put them up there yet. You got it. I think this game against the Eagles will be pretty telling for me if this is a sustainable model for them.
I was going to say, if they can get through, they host the Eagles next week. Do you think, in your own opinion, if they can get through the Eagles, would you consider them to be a Super Bowl contender? Upgrade them from, their easy division winner, if you will, to possible Super Bowl contender, or would you just kind of put them in that conference championship maker, maybe?
I think we can start the discussion, but until... So you're
not even ready to put that on the table yet?
Not ready to put it on the table. I think it's a discussion, but it's still just can't win. You can't survive winning a bunch of one-score games. I think it tells me that they can hang, tells me that don't count them out, but are you going to win 13 one-score games this year in Tampa? You barely beat the Jets and the Texans, who are both 0-3. And you barely beat the Falcons, who are 1-2. Let's see how they do against another 3-0 team here.
Yeah, speaking of a 3-0 team, the last team in our Have Our Expectations Changed Now segment are the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert seemingly popping off right now. I mean, they're hitting on all cylinders right now. They're leading their division. The Denver Broncos are a little underwhelming from, I guess, the start that we kind of anticipated them having. The Kansas City Chiefs at the bottom of this division, which I think everybody would take that as a surprise, looking to turn things around. Like this Chargers team, do you think that the expectations here have changed now. Like, we obviously see them as a good regular season team. I feel like that's a year in, year out type of deal, right? They have this good regular season. They fumble in the playoffs, but with the start that they've had and kind of the dominance that we've been able to see through 3 games, I mean, they beat the Super Bowl runner-ups. You know, they got a division win against the Raiders and another big division win against the Broncos. Again, do we see that this team has brighter expectations? They look like they're beyond a wild card team, and now, I mean, they're sitting in first place in their division early in the season. But kind of 3 division wins. I'm sorry, they're sitting pretty.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Chargers fan, it's hard not to start thinking Super Bowl, right? You beat the Chiefs, you beat the Broncos, who were both playoff teams, you beat the brakes off Vegas, right? I think for me, though, the question for me is it, I'm not going to say the word sustainable, but Justin Herbert looks like a completely different quarterback this year. Like, I don't know what it is when you're watching him. He takes care of the ball more. He's seeing the field better, right? He really uses his legs as an extra weapon rather than out of necessity. I think that's been an amazing part of his game. And also, I think the weapons that he has now with Keenan Allen, which is such a safety blanket in that Chargers offense, like such an easy guy to get the ball to, right? Keenan Allen, Lad McConkey is a great wide receiver. And then you have Quentin Johnson, who's currently having a little bit of a breakout right now and having great games as well. And now, unfortunately, you lost Najee Harris to an Achilles tear, but you get to ride your first round running back in Omari and Hampton and let him go to town. Like, behind that offensive line, that's fantastic. Even though they lost Rashawn Slater, like, Joe Alt is one of the best left tackles in football. You watch him play, and you're not getting past him. Like, he's so good and such a safety blanket for Justin Herbert that the Chargers just look impressive, and the defense isn't crumbling. They're not blowing things at the end of games. Like, they're not giving up dumb plays or dumb penalties. They're just playing good, clean football right now, and it just looks nothing short of just impressive what the Chargers are doing in Los Angeles. And yeah, I mean, if I'm a Chargers fan, you're thinking about booking tickets right now, but I'm not fully there yet. But I mean, Justin Herbert, 860 yards passing right now. Like, Amari and Hampton has 142 yards on the ground. Quentin Johnson has 239, 194, and 163 for Keenan Allen and Lad McConkey, right? And the defense side of things, I mean, Henley is doing fantastic. Erwin James still leading the team in tackles, right? Like, what more can you ask for out of a team like that? So the defense is doing what it needs to. It's not making dumb mistakes. And then you have one of the best kickers in football. Puts you in a good recipe for success. And now you get the Chargers this week. Not the Chargers. You get the Giants, Commanders, Dolphins, your next stretch of games. You can look at 5-1, 6-0 right now.
Yeah, no, that's the point that I was going to make was, you still built you've currently instilled that confidence, and then you get to reinforce it by a Giants team who looks down, a Commanders team who looks like they're figuring it out at the moment. They had a good win against the Raiders, but it's the Raiders. And then a Dolphins team that looks also down bad versus going to what could be your first or second real opponent this year in the Colts, depending on how Denver fits up until that point and etc. So do we see them further than just the wild card team right now? Like, if you were going to put their ceiling up right now into the game that they could get to, where do you put them right now? Where's your confidence level?
In the Chargers?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, or what are we basing it on?
What's the ceiling that you think that they can get to? Do you think they can get to their divisional championship game, or do you think they can get to the conference championship game, or do you think they can get to the Super Bowl?
I mean,
I know "could" is a big word, but where is your confidence level right now?
I think they have a good shot. I think they have a good shot of getting out of the wild card and going to the divisional for the first time in a long time. I'm not quite ready to put them up in conference championship territory because I reserve it for the big three right now of the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills. You kind of got to prove it. Like, again, you want to put them in that Super Bowl conversation, but it's week 3, man. Like, so many things can still happen. But again, if you're a Chargers fan, it's hard not to start thinking Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean,
But there's still a lot of games left to be played. A lot of players can come back from injury. Players can get injured. You know, I'm not ready to make that assessment for them yet, but I mean, they're in a good shape right now. And if things keep progressing and I like what I'm seeing, there's a chance we can talk week 6 and they're 5-1 and we're talking about Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, so we've had our contenders right now that we've talked about right now who were, if their expectations have changed now, and now we're going to flip it. Is it time to panic for some of these teams, Jacob, right now? The Houston Texans.
Yeah.
0-3. Is it time
Panic.
to slam on the panic button?
Yeah, you're quite panicking. You shouldn't be 0-3 in the AFC South. You shouldn't lose to the Jags with C.J. Stroud. I think there's a lot of C.J. Stroud discourse happening. People don't know if he's that good, but he also doesn't have an offensive line. So no matter how many weapons you keep giving him, he has no offensive line to throw to protect him. It's tough. The defense is good, just the offense is really bad. So if I'm a Texans fan and you thought C.J. Stroud was the truth after going to the playoffs his rookie year, you're absolutely hitting the panic button.
Yeah, some kind of surprises here is Nick Chubb, doing some work for them, after his gruesome injury with the Browns. This team has also allowed 8 sacks for a total of 82 yards this whole season, so they're losing 10 yards a sack, every time it's given up. And this just offense, Nico Collins only 181 yards through 3 games. He's only averaging like 60 yards a game. With your next wide receiver being your tight end, Dalton Schultz, only averaging 32. Like, do we think that this is a C.J. Stroud issue or more of a offensive line? Because he's hitting 64% right now, but he's only getting about 200 yards a game.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think because he doesn't have an offensive line, he can't really throw it deep like he would probably want to, like we saw in that rookie year. But at the same token, the C.J. Stroud has not been good enough to win Texans games versus I feel like that game against the Jags, you probably expected C.J. Stroud to go win you that ball game, and instead you lose 17-10. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think I'm more worried about Stroud than I have been in the years past because, coming out his rookie year, I preferred him over Caleb Williams, and I looked like I was right for about 2 years. And now I'm not so sure. Caleb Williams looks really good, but C.J. Stroud, he's struggling. But it's also not all his fault, though, but you can't be in year 3 and not be averaging more than barely hitting 200 yards. It's not a recipe for success. You can't sustain wins like that. And you just got to do more for your offense because Nick Chubb and Woody Marks is not exactly Joe Mixon. So you just have to understand, I guess, the cards being dealt. But I'm hitting the panic button right now for them. It's not fun times over in Houston, in H-Town.
I wanted to make one more remark just because I'm like looking at the stat right now that C.J. Stroud is their number 2 rusher on that team. And so to think that they've given up just 8 sacks, the amount that he's had to run the ball in order to probably be forced out of a sack, whether that's 1 yard or 10 yards that he's gained on that rush, he's not a run-first quarterback. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He is a can use his feet if necessary quarterback. So the Texans have some figuring out to do. The passes that he does make, he needs to be more accurate, and that offensive line needs to act like they want to win in order for this team to succeed. Moving on, though, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I wish I had Drew on here to, try to force a coin flip here, right, to look on the other side. But the Falcons and Michael Penix looked bad against the Panthers the other day. The defense that I was excited for gave up 30 points to the Panthers. Now, are we overlooking the Panthers, or is it time to hit the panic button on Atlanta?
I think I'm hitting the panic button, but I'm hovering the hand over the button right now. Like, it's week 3, and you're thinking about going back to Kirk Cousins after you proclaim Penix as the guy, after you benched Cousins last year. Man, it's tough, right? You look at it that way, and it's tough, and, it's a tale of 2 weeks, right? You go from tale of 3 weeks, really. You go from potentially being the Bucs on a game-winning field goal, missing it, right? Obviously, you miss that, and then game-tying field goal, you miss it. Then you go to, I got it. Then you go to Minnesota, beat them on Sunday Night Football on the road, make J.J. McCarthy look silly, make him look bad. The defense had their way. And then you play at home against Carolina, and Carolina boat races you to 30-0 with I've been saying this to Drew. There should be no reason that you have Drake London, Bijan, and Kyle Pitts and put up 0 points. There's no reason why Bijan shouldn't be having 150 yards a game. Raheem Morris is not a good coach. The offense is bad. The defense is okay. But he doesn't know what to do with a quarterback. They don't have a coordinator that knows how to utilize their weapons or put them in positions to succeed. And they took a risk on not only signing a 35-plus-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles tear, and then drafted his replacement potentially. Atlanta is all types of screwed if they can't figure that, you need to make the playoffs this year to make a lot of these things work out, because if not, Bijan's coming up on a contract. Drake London's coming up on a contract. You got some issues you need to figure out before this season's out. And I'm not hitting the panic button, but I'm hovering it. But, this Falcons team should be better than what they are. I hate, Drew texted me and said this week, this loss is going to set us back a couple weeks. And I go, a couple weeks? Might set you back the entire season. Because now you get the next 3 weeks for you are the Commanders, Bills, and Niners.
That's gonna tell us where this team is, right? Because 30-0 is an embarrassment of a loss, right? In any level, anywhere, 30-0 sucks. And the Commanders, that could be a good win for them. That could be a win that really sets them up for success. We'll plan for a Bills loss. And then that 49ers game, right, to possibly bring you back even, right? They're trying to figure some stuff out. On the defensive end, they just lost Bosa for the season with an ACL tear. And then you have the Dolphins and then the Patriots, which could bring you back on track here. But that 49ers game after the next 2 will be a big determiner in this game. So, I'm right there with you. I'm not totally out on them, but losing your first 2 divisional games is a big red flag for the expectations that you had for this season. So, and lastly, Jacob, the last thing that we want to breeze by real quick is, are we hitting the panic button for the Cowboys right now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You trade away Micah Parsons and you suck. What's new, right? You traded away Micah Parsons. Your defense is really bad now. And now you lost CeeDee Lamb for 2 to 4 weeks and you're 1-2 to start. Not exactly comfort times over in Dallas. Dak isn't playing bad. The defense just isn't playing great. And you know what would really help? If you had Micah Parsons.
Fair, very fair. I'm right there with you. They've got a couple of brutal games here coming up. They host the Packers, which we could definitely see how they bounce back from this Bears loss. They got to go to New York for the Jets, which could, I think they could surprise you on any given Sunday. And then the Panthers, if they figured stuff out after putting up 30 points against the Falcons, could be brutal. Commanders, Broncos, there are some teams in here that could, if the Cowboys were, on the fence of the type of season they're going to have, there are a couple teams in here that could bounce you one way or the other. So I'm right there with you. The panic button's there. I think I would be hitting it as well. But I'm still kind of I'm right above it. So panic button, Jacob, my hand is right there. But I think that does it for NFL talk. We're going to move in and kind of breeze through some college football because, again, this past week, rather crazy. This coming week has an onslaught of great games coming up as well. But we're going to start with, while we're on the topic of panic, the hot seats for some coaches here. We've got 3 coaches here. We're going to breeze through them real quick. The not so surprising pick here is Billy Napier. We know he is on the hot seat, but is there anything that saves his season, Jacob?
I don't know. You got maybe a win against Texas buys you a couple of weeks. I'm not exactly feeling confident that it's going to save my job. But, I mean...
he's guaranteed out at the end of the season.
I mean, listen, to me, this schedule, dude, is so tough. I mean, I don't see a way that Billy Napier can save his job unless he somehow wins out the entire year. I think that's the expectation is Billy has to win out the entire year. It has to be Texas. It has to be A&M. He has to beat Georgia. He has to beat Ole Miss. He has to beat Tennessee, and he has to beat Florida State. You got to beat all of them. This isn't Auburn where you can beat Alabama and you get an extra year because you're Gus Malzahn. We're not doing that, right? This is Florida, and you have a generational quarterback in DJ Lagway, and you're wasting him. Now, I don't know why he somehow sucks this year, but they're wasting him right now, and that's what's happening over in Gainesville. I will be shocked if he is still the coach after Florida, Georgia. For what your expectations were as a program, I'd be shocked if he's still, especially if you're entering that Florida, Georgia game with 2 wins.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have to play spoiler, and you lost the USF when you shouldn't have. You can lose. You can survive losing to LSU and Miami, right? But you got whooped by Miami. You threw 5 interceptions in Baton Rouge. Now you get Arch at home, which Texas is a very beatable team because Arch is not great yet. But Texas's defense is really good, and will Lagway struggle? But I can see them winning. But then you got to go on the road to A&M, and it's gosh. And Mississippi State's not bad either. Mississippi State's 4.
Kentucky on the road is a miserable place to play.
Yeah, and then you got to go to Ole Miss and you get Tennessee and Florida. Like I said, if he's still the head coach after Florida, Georgia, impressive. And if he somehow is not fired at the end of the year, he has the AD's wife blackmailed. He has the AD blackmailed with photos of his wife. That's the only logical explanation for why Billy Napier still has a job. But how many times have you seen Scott Strickland put out a Billy Napier's the guy quote graphic on his Twitter?
As a UF alum, never sold on him.
More times than you're probably comfortable with.
And that's why you probably haven't seen one lately. So I think the universe is out on Napier. At what point, is there any point where you just ride out the rest of the season, make that buyout a little less at the end?
Nope.
Or do you think you got to bail out and start recruiting early for your next head coach?
I think you got to fire him and get the ball rolling early. I think that's what you got to do. I think you got to know who you want. You got to see who's available and who do you think going after. I
think the team's already lost them too. I think that's the worst part. I think the teams, it's hard to predict 5 interceptions by what we called a generational talent in a Heisman Trophy possibility going into this year. Maybe not a hopeful, but somebody who... a lot of us looked at DJ Lagway like he was going to bring Florida to the college football playoff. And instead... my SEC runner-up, Florida was.
And now you're looking at 1-3 through 4 weeks.
Exactly.
And now you get Texas.
Speaking of, hopefuls here, Dabo Swinney and Clemson have fallen to 1-3. Dabo came out with some comments after the loss to Georgia Tech and was like, if you're tired of winning, see you later. And then you come out and Syracuse puts a whooping on you in Clemson, in Death Valley. What are we thinking here? Is he bidding his own time? Is he on the hot seat? Is Is that pot on the stove? Is it boiling? Where are we at, Jacob?
I don't know, because what he is saying is very almost like he's daring them in a sense. Like he's like, I dare you to fire me. I dare you. Dare you.
He's like, I built this program from the bottom up.
He built it from the bottom up, and again, like they're technically not out of it in the ACC conference.
Right.
Because Georgia Tech can crumble, like Florida State can crumble, like they're technically not out of it. But it's like, what's your metric though? Is your metric, oh, we made the college football playoff, but we were 8-4 potentially? Or is your metric, winning the ACC and competing for titles? Or, in the grand scheme of it, like he has been really good. But last season was a bad Clemson year and got bailed out by them beating SMU in the ACC championship game. Like you had 3 losses last year and you made it to the college football playoff. Like you were I think you finished the year 9-3 after getting smoked by Georgia. You lose to Louisville and then you lose to South Carolina, and then the year prior you had 3 losses as well. You lost to Duke, you lost to Miami, you lost to NC State. And you played in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Like 2022, you're looking at 2 losses, right? To Notre Dame and to South Carolina, and then you lose to Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. I think if you're Clemson, like it's been like this isn't out of the norm. We're looking at 2021 here. I'm a big historical guy. You lose to Georgia, you lose to NC State, and you lose to Pitt, and then you play in the Cheez-It Bowl. Like, if you've looked at it, this is kind of Dabo's MO right now, is that he's losing a ton of games, right? And it seems like they all happen, like he's loses the first game a whole bunch of the time. Like he cannot figure that part out apparently. But he's lost to 2 ACC teams in every single season for the last 3 or 4 years. So this is kind of the norm that you expect with Dabo. And if you're frustrated with having 2 ACC losses, you should have fired him in 2022, 2023. But now this has kind of been Dabo's MO. I don't really see the world in which you fire him, especially if you're still getting all these recruits and all this top talent. I don't see a world in which they fire Dabo. And also who would want that job? Dabo's one of those guys, who do you want to succeed Dabo? It's like trying to, I'm not going to say it's the level of Nick Saban, but
I mean,
Dabo,
for his tenure at Clemson, I mean,
he's the guy at Clemson.
That you can compare.
That's the statement. The statement you're making, but if you fire Dabo to your fan base is that championships are the only goal in mind. So if that new coach comes in and doesn't win championships, where do you go?
I mean, Clemson hasn't won a championship in how long? Since what? 18?
Yeah, but they dominated the ACC though.
Right.
They've won the ACC almost every year now.
I know, but have they not been the champion 2 of the last 3 years? Because wasn't it Pitt, Florida State? Or well, I guess 3 years ago it was Pitt, and then it was Florida State, and then they won last year. So, and this is the first time, because I got some facts for you, Jacob. I did my research before this. This is Clemson's first 1-3 start since 2004. And you made the comment about recruiting. And in the last 4 years, right? So Clemson was 4 years ago. Then we're number 10 3 years ago. Number 11 2 years ago. And then last year, they were number 26 recruiting. So I think if Clemson were to bail now, again, given that they have a coach in mind to bring in, don't know who it is, I'm not going to speculate that they do. I don't even know where to start with that. They could. Dabo, I think, also has the same opportunity to go somewhere and also be able to sell himself. That I think it's got to be at the end of this season, if not earlier, right? If they drop, let's just say they drop Florida State, right? And maybe they drop one more, right? Maybe they drop Boston College.
Looking at 5 losses.
Maybe just even one more. I mean, 4 or 3 losses in the ACC and 4 overall kind of is a bad look, especially if your 9-win is your trajectory. Like 9 wins after a while gets old. 10 wins, you can make an argument for keeping a coach that has 10 wins every year. But you start dipping into that 9-8 range, now you're really pushing your luck, right? Because that's no conference championships. That might be, a tough out of conference loss and a couple conference losses. Then you're getting into sticky trouble if you're going to 9-8. But 10-2, you can survive. You can make an SEC championship or an ACC championship.
Yeah. Again,
but now your recruiting is slipping. Dabo is so against the transfer portal too. He's not totally out of it. He's dabbled in it, pun intended. But it's not to the standard. His coaching style hasn't changed. He's not getting with the times.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been his Achilles heel, is that he chooses to not attack in the same way that today's college game is, and that's unfortunately been to their detriment. And but again, I don't see a world in which you fire Dabo. Like, who would you hire? Who's a better coach than Dabo? Clark Lee out of Vanderbilt, maybe? Like,
I thought that was an interesting pick.
Like, do you go Campbell out of Iowa State? Like, you got to get someone who's a culture builder, because like that's what Dabo was. You can't just bring in a guy who's X's and O's. Like, is it one of those guys? Like, I don't know, right? Do you go after a young buck and Kenny Dillingham and give him the keys to the kingdom? Almost over in Clemson, South Carolina. Like, I genuinely don't know. Don't know.
I think you have a little bit more leeway there. Again, without knowing, right? Because I think we got to wait a couple more weeks before this kind of conversation gets more serious and more literal. But South Carolina is one of the most desired spots in America, just as a normal human being. Like, the Carolinas tend to be that perfect sway of 4 seasons, great location. It's got a lot of things going for it. So I don't think they would have trouble even if a top coach became available, or if they had to steal a top coach away, buy somebody out and then hire them for a good price tag. I think that would be something that they could do. But I got one more coach here, Jacob. A little bit earlier, newer than the last two. Luke Fickell out of Wisconsin. They had chance of firing Luke Fickell.
Gone. Fired.
After two seasons and some change?
Yeah. They're terrible, man. They're terrible. It's one thing to like maybe be unfortunate and you just can't win a couple games. It's another to be terrible. They are a terrible football team. It is bad times in Madison, Wisconsin, and it does not seem to get any better. Like,
yeah.
You lose to Maryland, you lose to Alabama, you beat Middle Tennessee State and Miami of Ohio, like, good job. But, like, they're terrible, man. 2024, they had 1, 2, 3, 4. They were 5-7.
They're 15-15 under Luke Fickell right now.
15-15 under Luke Fickell. Like, you beat up on the bad Big Ten teams, but in order to compete in the Big Ten at like a school like Wisconsin, you kind of have to be good at football. 15-15 to me isn't going to cut it. This is 2.5 seasons of Luke Fickell. Yep, you expected him to like kind of shape the program like he did up in Cincinnati, and that is currently not happening.
But you think he's out of time?
This body does not care. You see the student section is empty over in Wisconsin in Camp Randall. Like, I think he's out of time, especially if he can't get him to a bowl game this year. He's really out of time.
Yeah. I think it's a shame because in his 2 seasons, he started at number 7 in recruiting in the Big Ten and then fell to number 9 last year in recruiting in the Big Ten. Like, you can't even compete with the middle of the class here in the Big Ten in recruiting, right? Like, Wisconsin known for running the football, like old school Big Ten football, old school Nebraska, old school Iowa,
Yeah.
And you can't even recruit the people good enough to be at the top of their game in their state. And
I think there's no I don't see a way in which he survives that, personally.
Well, moving on to, we got 2 more categories left. We're going to try to speed through this as we're getting a little later here. Contenders or pretenders after week 4. I've got 4 teams here, Jacob. I want you to tell me what you think about them. I'll give you a little bit of my own take, and we can go from there. After their win this past weekend, Texas Tech, a win over Utah. Are they contenders or pretenders?
I mean, part of me still wants to say pretenders. I still don't believe in them. I think you saw Utah wasn't that good. I think it was kind of a wake-up call. But, I mean, they're going to compete in the Big 12, man. They got a really good defense. But the quarterback's a question. But Hammond came in there and dealt, man. So
Big fourth quarter.
Big fourth quarter from Hammond. I mean, it's hard not to say they're slightly contenders in the Big 12. But to me, and my own personal bias, I view them as pretenders.
Yeah, do you see them being the number 12 team in the nation right now?
No.
Or do you think that's a little high?
I think it's a gross overreaction to how good Utah was. Utah, I think, has really showed us in that game that the offense still isn't fixed, and the defense is still a problem. And I think it's a gross overreaction to beating a ranked team on the road. Getting a road win's impressive, but I think to put him at 12, I think is a little bit of a gross overreaction to me.
Fair enough. I agree, so I won't add on to any of that. But I will add on to this one. Miami. I feel like, I'm going to give you my take real quick. I feel like this was a slow start. I feel like it was low-key a bad game by Miami. Like not bad in the sense that, they did bad things. But Carson Beck wasn't great. The run game, Mark Fletcher, 24 carries, 116 yards, a touchdown. Charmar Brown had 18 carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. The run game was phenomenal. Carson Beck, questionable. The Florida offense, horrible. Whether you want to mark it for Miami as good defense or Florida offense, I'm going to mark it as a bad offensive game by Florida. I think DJ Lagway looked horrible, only 60 yards through the air, 60 or 80. It was one of the two. Still not good, regardless. And Miami got the bump from 4-2, leaping LSU and Penn State. Contender, pretender, and where do you like the ranking?
I think they're contenders. I don't disagree with the ranking, given the quality of opponents that they played in the first 4 weeks, with a win against Notre Dame and a win against, in-state rival Florida. And also you beat a ranked USF team at the time as well, who is a very good mid-major program. Yeah, I think they're contenders. I think the defense has alleviated a lot of the issues from last season. And now looking into where they are now, it is pretty good for Miami. I like them as contenders moving forward in the national champion picture. National title run.
I can agree that I think they're going to make a nice push here towards the end. I think they will, get their makeup on, or they will get their lick back, if you will, on missing out on the playoffs by edging, and I think they will edge themselves into this playoff run. I don't think that they will get through the ACC. But I thought it was a surprise that they jumped the way that they did. I mean, USF, was ranked at the time. Give credit where it's due. I even picked USF to win that game, so for Miami to come out and destroy them like they did surprised me. But I don't know that the win against Florida would be my selling point to jump Penn State and LSU. And I think that's kind of my argument right there is, one, they didn't look great against Florida, right? The run game did. Their one aspect of their game did. But nothing else really, surprised me. I think Florida's a bad team. I'm out on Florida for the year, and I was wrong. That's on me. But I don't think that it was enough to jump them to number 2. My third team here, Indiana, beat the dog water out of Illinois. And Fernando Mendoza, 5 touchdowns in the Indiana offense. 312 yards on the ground. Indiana, 7 sacks on the day. I mean, talk about a surprise team and a win that Indiana needed to make their program more serious, right? Like last year, they had a pancake schedule, lost the only ranked game that they had. Illinois coming in with the hype that they had, with Altmaier leading the helm of that Illinois offense, and a defense that, I think we all thought was going to be pretty decent. And then to do that,
Yeah.
are they contenders or pretenders?
I'm going to say they're pretenders. I think we grossly, again, overrated Illinois. I think we both kind of was sipping out of the same Kool-Aid until they got to play Oregon and Penn State. And until I see you go up against them and see how you look, I'm not buying the Indiana juice again. I'm not doing this thing where they're going to beat up on the bad Big Ten teams. They're going to win a couple close games. I will say beating the crap out of Illinois is impressive. But I think, again, it was a gross overreaction as how we see South Carolina and Illinois have fallen kind of out of the rankings now. As we're starting to sift through the weeks here. Illinois, Indiana's been impressive. I'm really impressed with Mendoza. I think Mendoza is a much better quarterback than Rourke was last year. I think every part of Indiana's team has gotten better, but you gotta show up when you play the big dogs. And I'm not buying this Kurt Signetti propaganda, being like we're gonna play like the SEC teams. And no, I'm not doing it. I'm not buying it. It's not for me. I don't believe in Indiana quite yet.
So Indiana is an interesting team for me to decide whether I'm in or out on, just because, they do have a rough schedule. Like, I don't think Illinois was grossly overrated because of the momentum they had coming into this season. I believe they were 9-3, if not, they were 9-3 last year, if I'm not mistaken. And, the expectation was them to just be the next level, right? And Indiana kind of had no basis for us to judge them. They came in, they kind of rocked the Big Ten, really, in how they performed. Maybe not overwhelmingly good in comparison to the top teams, but they beat up everybody that they played, except for Ohio State. And now they got to go to Oregon, and they got to go to Penn State. Does this, just a quick question for you, Jacob, do you think that this win over Illinois holds any weight if they lose to Penn State and Oregon? I mean, those are going to be top 10 teams, arguably, if not at most top 15.
I think it's how they look. If they looked how they played Penn State last year and looked anemic, I can't believe in that in Indiana. But if they're battling with Penn State and Oregon and they lose on like a field goal or they lose by a touchdown and it was like, if they got the ball back, they probably were going to score type of deal. Like, I think I'd give Indiana a lot more respect. But until then, I've made my statement. I'm sticking by it. Don't buy the Kurt Signetti propaganda, and I am staying true to that.
Fair enough. Last one, Jacob. Oklahoma, they stole a game. In my own opinion, they stole a game from Auburn. They missed the call on a Mateer touchdown pass on what the SEC ruled as an illegal play later. Both teams struggled offensively. Mateer, or the OU offense, struggled on the ground. No team found real great success there. The only touchdown that Mateer had was on that trick play. And then now Mateer is going to be out for the next couple of weeks due to an injury. But even that's still unknown. So where are we feeling that Oklahoma is right now?
Not great now that you lost Heisman favorite John Mateer. I'm not in the camp of it. I don't believe in Oklahoma without John Mateer. I think I'm going to leave it as simple as that. I think we said in the last episode, John Mateer is what's going to carry Oklahoma as far as they go. And now your engine is gone. And you might have to be stuck on the side of the road until AAA comes. So until then, they'll get some wins, but life is not the same as it would have been with John Mateer. I think John Mateer gave that team a lot of energy and boost, plus knowing the offense with Arbuckle. But they're going to fall off, and without Mateer, they're pretenders.
Fair enough. So they've got a couple of opponents here that could be beatable and a couple not, depending on how long Mateer is out. They got Kent State next week, which is a good, hey, we're getting Mateer his surgery. Whether or not that has happened already is not known to me at this time, but Kent State this week, and then you host Texas for the Red River rivalry, which will be a huge matchup for this team. And then they go to South Carolina. Let's say that they lose one out of those three matchups, Jacob, and then they host Ole Miss, go to Tennessee, go to Alabama, host Missouri, and they host LSU. And what a brutal stretch if Mateer has to come back for the last four of that. If they lose one of those games, do you think that they can come back with Mateer like on that same level? Or do you think that that's going to have to be worked in, through a couple weeks?
I don't know, man. I think it depends on how fast he can heal up, how comfortable he can get to throwing again, and as long as he doesn't see any setbacks, what can you look at Oklahoma like? But I mean, you get Kent State, you get Texas and Dallas, and then you get South Carolina, and then like you said, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama, Mizzou, LSU, and I think they hope to have Mateer back by. I think it looks like Ole Miss, but that's a brutal stretch to come back to. And who knows what that hand's going to look like? Who knows how comfortable he's going to feel throwing the ball again and what that rehab process looks like? So sell your Oklahoma stock if you got it.
All right, Jacob, to finish this up, we've got the big three for the week, right? Three big matchups this weekend, 2 SEC battles and a Big Ten battle. We're going to knock it off first here. LSU going to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin threw a little bit of a fit about this being a 2:30 kickoff for him because he feels like if it were in Baton Rouge, it'd be a night game. I don't like the vibe that Lane Kiffin in this little hissy fit is giving off before going into this matchup. Like, that's not the energy that I want my coach to be complaining about. Like, we've got a game. This is almost a top 10. This is a top 15 matchup against the number 4 team in the country, I believe. And we're worried about the game time versus anything. I don't like the energy. I'm, just for the term, I'm going LSU in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what Ole Miss does here at quarterback either. Like, it's, again, but LSU's the number 4 team in the country, and they're 1.5 point underdogs now. That's a little bit surprising. It looks like they found a quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss on the offensive side and not Austin Simmons. They have a really good run game. They kind of put, BTA to Tulane. And, they battled Arkansas in a shootout. I do like LSU's defense, man. I do. I think they can probably step up to the plate here, but the LSU offense has not looked the way I wanted to, and you got to go on the road to the SIP in Ole Miss. And also, Lane Kiffin's daughter announcing that she's dating an LSU linebacker in Whit Weeks. I think just for the vibes, he's got to get his get back. You can't have your daughter be doing that. And I think I'm going to ride with you, DJ, and take Ole Miss in this matchup.
See, I didn't ride Ole Miss. I rolled LSU.
Well, I'm riding Ole Miss, and I thought you did the same, but it shows that we are a miss.
That's all right. The other big SEC matchup that we've got here, Alabama traveling to Athens to play Georgia. Now, not the big matchup that we've seen in past, right? But nonetheless, a game that could really decide the SEC. Georgia did not look great last week. They didn't. They haven't looked great all year long, right? The offense got it done against Tennessee. The defense really got it done when it really mattered. But Alabama losing the early game to Florida State, and now they've come around a little bit. They feel like they've got a little bit of a groove. Big win against Wisconsin, who hasn't looked great. But offense looks to be clicking better. The defense looks like it's clicking better. And now we've got a top 20 matchup here. What are we thinking? What's the vibe here, Jacob?
I think it being at Georgia, I think plays in the Georgia's favor. I like Gunnar Stockton. I like Nate. I like Frazier. I'm a little worried about the passing game for Georgia. I'm worried about both defenses. I'm just not sure Ty Simpson can step up to the level of this game. Like we saw how he was at Florida State, and he was very uncomfortable. And this is a similar, maybe even more raucous environment than Florida State. And I think I'm going to trust my gut here, and it's what I got to do. And I'm going to take Georgia in this matchup. But, I'm not comfortable with it, but I am going to take the Bulldogs of Georgia.
Alabama has had Georgia's number in years past, even with good old Kalen DeBoer at the helm. But, like you said, Gunnar Stockton just looks like the better quarterback. And it's funny enough here, I'm looking at the stats. Ty Simpson has played better than Gunnar Stockton has thus far. Ty Simpson, 64 of 89 for 9 touchdowns. Gunnar Stockton, 63 of 89 for 4 touchdowns. But the run game seems to be the difference maker here, as just Georgia has a better run game. But with that being said, I think Georgia's the more disciplined team. I think they're the more coherent team. I trust really both sides of the ball more than I do. And the fact that Georgia does, in fact, have a run game and one of the fastest wide receivers in Zachariah Branch. I think if they can stick to their game, get him moving laterally, let his speed do the work, as long as just make the run game work, I think Georgia will handedly beat Alabama. You know, I'm going to give a score prediction just for the heck of it. I'm picking Georgia 34. I'm thinking it's a 10-point swing in favor of Georgia. Do you want to give a score prediction? You want me to move on to our last matchup? Nope.
We can move on.
For our last matchup, For our last matchup, the college game day location, Oregon is going to Penn State for the whiteout. And Jacob, I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't been this excited for a whiteout game in a very, very long time. If I'm not mistaken, this is going to be a 5 versus 3 matchup in College Station? College Park?
It's College Park.
It's College Park, yes. It's going to be mayhem. It's going to be so aggressively loud in that stadium. I think we're going to hit record numbers here. And this is arguably a fight for the Big Ten. This could...
Well, it's not College Park, it's State College.
State College. Oh my gosh. I got to restart. I lost my train of thought there. Lastly, Jacob, the college game day location, State College, Penn State is hosting Oregon in a top, I believe, 5 matchup. And this stadium is going to be rocking. Rocking, I tell you. I think this is going to be record numbers as far as the Penn State Stadium. I think it's going to be so aggressively loud. I think the matchup in and of itself is just cinematic. This is a replay or a rematch of the Big Ten Championship game last year, and a game that could potentially determine the Big Ten Championship game this year. So much on the line in this game, just so much to prove in this game as well. Franklin, again, in a big game. Can he win it? Oregon is now the new Penn State and the new Ohio State for James Franklin in deciding if he can win the big game. So much at stake here, Jacob. Where are you leaning?
Dante Moore looks good. Drew Aller looks good. Both offenses look good. No one's really played anybody worth of significance yet. So this is really going to be the big test for me to see, right? And you're looking at Penn State and you're like, this is the game. This is the game to show us that you're the national champion. You know, championship contender, I mean. And to me, I picked Penn State as my national champion, and I have to ride with them the entire way because that's what loyal people do, and I stand by my word. I'm going to take Penn State in this game. Even though every part of me wants to pick Oregon for this upset, I just think Penn State finds a way to win. I think the crowd is going to give the Oregon offense tons of fits. And Penn State hasn't had a whiteout game like this in a couple years. So they're hungry to get after a quarterback and make him feel 110,000 people in the stands. Just the sound, the energy, it's going to be daunting for him. I'm taking Penn State in a close one. Probably an instant classic.
I'm so hesitant in each direction here. I think more than anything, you know, the stadium's going to be rocking, but that's nothing new for Oregon and Dan Lanning, right? Like, I think they're going to eat that up. You know how they were taunting Michigan last year? They wanted the crowd to go louder. I don't think that's going to play the factor here. I think this is the game, Jacob, that tells me whether or not James Franklin is worth anything to this Penn State program, right? And I'm going to tell you why right now. They're all coming off a bye week. I think you have 2 weeks. You can sit down and watch Oregon play their game last week against Oregon State. And you just get to sit down and watch it. Look at the movements. Your coaching staff, your players, they have time. They had time before the Big Ten Championship game. I'll give them that. But this is different. right? You've seen there. That's a new program at that time. But this is now the team that you need to prove yourself to this year. And I think that's what needs to happen. I think Dan Lanning just stomps and crushes James Franklin in the first half. And then I think Penn State has a great second half, and they come back, and it's a field goal victory. A last-second field goal victory. Penn State comes away. College Park.
State College.
State College. Gosh damn it. One of the colleges, damn it. They rush the field. And James Franklin gets his signature win for the year. The only one that I believe he gets this year. I think it's a 34-31 win, Penn State.
The Ryder Cup is this weekend. Go Team USA.
I'll watch it and have a beer. Why not?
Saturday morning. Lead right into it.
Saturday mornings. But, well, what a full podcast, Jacob. So much to cover. This was thick.
A lot of things to cover.
You know, it's that time of year. It's the most hectic time of year. But we're here to cover it all for you guys. Thank you all for listening. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on all social platforms. He has been your co-host, Jacob Trail. I have been your co-host, DJ McCatherine. Thank you for listening to The Deal with D and J.